People shy away from personal branding because they think it's personal bragging.
Martians landed.
Yes.
Wearing Prada suits.
Yes.
Drinking Henry Seltzer.
Yes.
Chewing juicy fruit.
Yes, and?
Your branding here.
Yes, brand.
Your message here.
Yes, and?
A verse about.
Yes.
Your product here.
Yes.
I'm Hersh Rephun.
Yes, and?
I'm a message therapist.
Yes.
And I have a podcast.
Yes, brand.
That's right, that's it.
Yes.
We'll help you fix the world.
Yes.
Or your bottom line.
All right.
Your bottom line.
Get it. I get it. Welcome to the Yes Brand Podcast.
In the hot seat today on the Yes Brand Podcast is Jen Dalton. Jen is the founder and CEO of BrandMirror. That's an award-winning personal branding and reputation strategy firm. She's based in Fairfax, Virginia, with over 20 years of experience in brand and business strategy. Jen is empowering executives, entrepreneurs, and professionals to clarify and amplify their unique value. That's how they increase visibility. They build thought leadership in their industries, and you may wonder, hey, is there a little bit of similarity between what I do, what I do as your host, Hersh, and what Jen does? And there is indeed, in that we are both in that field of helping people amplify and clarify and communicate their messages. But as I have stated before, I believe each of us is in a category of one. We really are about what makes us incomparable, what makes us stand out amongst other people who may be doing what we do, but not in the same way, and nobody does it in the same way. And we're going to talk a lot about why personal brands. You look at the new generations coming up in business. Why? Why do they need to emphasize or even understand their own brand? So welcome, Jen. I really appreciate your coming on.
Thank you, Hersh. I'm excited to be here. I like being incomparable and in the same bucket as you.
That's right. And that's a really good point, Jen, is that you can be incomparable and yet in a community, in a group of people, in a certain field or a niche. The idea is that within there are all kinds of individuals, just like the world. You could say, am I a citizen of the world? Yes, I'm a citizen of the world. But am I like anybody else in the world? No. And that's really what we dig into. But let's start with young people today, with people coming up in business today, because I know you have some thoughts and experience around that.
I think one of the things that everyone needs to be thinking about is how are they showing up? And I think whether it's starting in high school, college, or first job, it's even more important because you're starting to think through, hopefully, hopefully, what are my values? What am I curious about? What am I interested in? Which leaders do I follow? Are there companies I like or company brands I don't like? And I think starting to formulate your identity and your perspectives is helpful when you think about where do you want to go to school, when you think about who might I want to work for. And a lot of people, especially young kids, and I'll say teenagers, I have two myself. One knew exactly what he wanted to do going into college. One is in high school right now and is like, I have no idea. And I said, that's okay. What we want to do is show what are your strengths? Or do you have empathy? Right? Are you curious? Do you have a great work ethic? And so even if you don't know exactly what you want to do, it's important to know how you deliver work, how you deliver value. And hopefully you can figure out along the way your why. Right? What
Yeah.
is it that gets you excited to get out of bed? How do you want to help people? Maybe it's working in a nonprofit. Maybe you want to do esports. 20 years ago, there was no esports degree. Now, if you're a teenager and you're gaming all the time, you can literally go get a scholarship and be an esports gamer, right? And so
You
there's so many new paths for young people. My niece was an English major and then got a master's in editing. Now she works at an AI company looking at How well are they asking questions? What's the output? And so I think keeping an open mind about what you like and your interests, and then finding where do you fit in this sort of ever-changing world an important quest to be on, whatever your age, but
Yeah.
definitely starting young, because that's a tricky question right now.
Yeah, yeah. And you hit on something that's really profound, which is these days things move so fast that I don't even think I certainly don't encourage my kids some of whom are out of college and in the business world and in their jobs already. Others are just, in their first year of college and finally one that hasn't gone in at all yet, who's not of college age. But with all of them, I feel like we have no idea what the jobs, quote unquote, will even be in
No.
5, 10 years, 3 years, you know. But the idea of being a productive member of society, of getting to know yourself,
Yes.
before you brand yourself is so important because what they have to offer is all of this, who they are, what
Hmm.
they're interested in. It's not the same as it was, a long time ago, let's even say a short time ago. It doesn't matter.
Right.
When you could just pick a major in college and say, okay, within reason, it's going to be one of five jobs, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So now, how did you get involved in this field?
Mm. Well, I grew up with entrepreneurs as parents, and so I was always looking at messaging and marketing and what are they doing. And I grew up in a small, big town, Augusta, Georgia. And my parents had a shoe store, so it was a retail perspective. But we always talked about business over the dinner table. And when I went to college, I went to Georgetown University. Um, and my major, a double major, was international management and HR. I love
Hmm.
people. I love psychology. I love understanding why do people do what they do. And then I spent 10 years at Capital One, working with amazing people, amazing leaders, and really got into the marketing side of the business. I started in operations, which I think is extremely important because then when I moved into marketing and we were designing marketing campaigns, we would know if we do this, this is going to impact operations because I just came from operations who would be like, marketing, what are you doing? And so I think going through processes of how do you define your audience? What do they need right now? What's the message for them? That really set me up to think about on my 10-year anniversary, what do I want to do for the next 10 years? And I ended up leaving Capital One, starting my own company. I went back and got my exec MBA as a um, sort of weekend program at Georgetown, which is a very intensive program, but allowed me to really get back and learn as an adult, which I'm a big believer in lifelong learning. And a lot of
Yeah.
the casework I did at Georgetown as an exec MBA was with small businesses. And as I was going through the program, the people in my class were amazing. And yet, a lot of them didn't know how to talk about themselves. And so we were
Mm.
all going through this process of a pivot. We're going back to get our exec MBA. We want to pivot. Some people wanted to start companies. Some people already led companies but wanted to pivot into a different space. Some people wanted to be promoted into another company, but really high caliber talent. And I was just like, wow, everybody's so amazing and they have no idea exactly what they want to do next. And not only do they not know necessarily, but they don't know how to talk about themselves. And
Yeah.
15% of our class were also exiting military, moving into the civilian space. And that's a huge question for them. How do you take your skill
Yeah.
set and translate it? And so before I graduated, I had started my company, and some of my classmates were my first clients. And Georgetown has a really big entrepreneurship initiative, and it had just been kicking off around that time. And so I started to get into that entrepreneurship community too. And that really teed up this notion of personal branding being critical for startups, personal being critical for starting a new career, pivoting into a career. And so that was almost 14 years ago. Been doing it ever
Yeah,
since.
there there are some great things to unpack there. One being that being the daughter of entrepreneurs, retailers, that creates a certain mindset. and it wasn't one we talked about this, I think, a different time, that that wasn't something I grew up with. My parents were, I mean, my father was an attorney and he had his own practice, but it certainly was not really an entrepreneurial mindset. It was a service provider kind of
Oh,
mindset, a professional mindset. My mom was a medical assistant,
mm,
worked primarily in insurance billing, but that was not her business. um, and I think that nonetheless, my mind always went away from corporate. Now I think, oh, I should have done like a decade in corporate. It probably would have been a good thing. But one of the things as we talk about young people, when we're young, we don't have a lot of patience necessarily. So
mm,
sometimes what could be a decade of career building in
mm-hmm.
a corporate environment, let's just use as an example,
Absolutely.
could be invaluable, be incredibly valuable. I have a client who was, uh, in a corporate environment for less than a year, but she knew that she had already her vision of her own company that she wanted to build, but she still did the
Yeah.
the corporates. She even told them going in, "Here's how long I'm going to be here," but
Hmm.
she knew that she wanted to have that experience and then the next experience. And I think that's a really enviable uh, awareness to have. So I think self awareness with an idea that we have periods that we learn in. I mean, it's funny because a decade when I was 25 would have seemed like an eternity,
Right.
right? Now we could spend 5 years building a new business or a new model. You could spend a year refining an offer. I mean, it's like it doesn't. It really.
Yeah.
It's a different mindset altogether. But knowing who we are is a journey that I don't think ever ends.
I definitely don't think it ends. I mean, for me, in the corporate space, I was more or less promoted every 2 years. And I
Yeah.
don't say that as a bragging statement. I say that as a you can learn and continue to grow and develop in a corporate role for a significant amount of time. And the people who surrounded me and mentored me and helped me radically changed my ability to launch a business, work for corporations as clients, because I came from a corporate background. So I knew how to think about culture and delivery and efficiency and people at large scale. Um, and sometimes if you go straight into working at a boutique firm or a small firm, you may just not have that access to that information. And so there's pros and cons. Um, there are two students that dropped out of Georgetown, much to my chagrin. If I'd ever dropped out of school, my mother would have hurt me. Um, but they now have the fastest growing company on the planet. It's Mercor. It's an AI staffing company.
Yeah.
And so, do I advocate dropping out? Not for me personally. I think there's a lot to be gained in the college experience as a transition into adulthood, but it's also not for everybody. Some people may want to go to technical schools, which I think people need more of. But I agree with you. The tagline for my company for BrandMirror is reflect, stand out. And the idea is reflect on who you are and then figure out how do you stand out. And I think a lot of people believe there's nothing unique about themselves.
Yeah.
And that's why I think when you're talking about your personal brand or even getting feedback about your company brand, you have to go ask people. Ask your
Yeah.
friends, hey, what do you think about me? Give me 5 words. I do this exercise with CEOs. I'll have CEOs describe themselves in 5 words, then I'll have them go ask their employees, their direct reports, their peers, their board, their family, how are they describing you? And get a sense of how are people perceiving you? Because perception is reality. I think we've all probably heard that phrase, and it's true. You
Oh,
really
it's
have
very
to go
true.
listen, right? Just like we would for a business brand. For your personal brand, you have to listen and see how you're showing up.
Not only that, but the feedback loop is so important because we cannot stand outside ourselves and look at what, like we can't read the label from the inside. It's like, we don't have the perspective. And I think if we get used to the idea that, uh, a trusted circle,
Mm.
constructive criticism, people who are trying to help us by just offering perspective. It's not always about their expertise. Sometimes it's about their lack of expertise that,
Yeah.
they're not jaded by
Yes.
our industry. And when we talk about individualism, and I want to get your take on this, there's a balance between knowing the rules so you can break them and also learning from what works as well as what doesn't work.
Absolutely. I think it's important to know one of the things we talked about earlier was who are you foundationally? And if you have your values well defined, what things you're not willing to break, right? Like, I don't lie to people. I show up early. If I show up late, something's really gone wrong, and I get really upset about being late. But I also don't like it when people are late, right? You have to know who you are, what you value, um, and be comfortable asking people to give you that feedback. I asked my 8-year-old one time, we were in a car driving around, and I asked him, I said, "Hey, would you tell me three things you like about me, three things you want me to improve?" And I really thought it was a good idea until he said, "Do you want me to alternate my answers?" And I was like, huh. He's 8. That's a feedback sandwich. I think maybe I should have not asked this question. However, it was really valuable. It gave
Yeah.
me insight. I changed some of my behaviors. Some things I felt really great about. Some things I was like, yeah, you know what? I need to change that. And I think as leaders, if you're running a company, even if it's a solopreneur, you have vendors you work with, you have business partners you work with, you might have community leaders. It's important to understand how you show up to each audience because oftentimes we're showing up differently to different groups and we may not realize it. And so I think for your personal brand, knowing how you're showing up is important. I think, for my clients and community, I really think about what are the conversations you want to influence or shape or start that we're not having right now as a community, as a business, whatever it is, that we should be, right? How do you want to leave a legacy? What's the impact you want to make? Not from an ego standpoint, but just from if you want to be, like you said earlier, a productive human and add value, what does that look like? You don't have to be the CEO of Costco to be a valuable human. Each one
Yeah.
of us has something to offer. And if we make one person's life better every day or once a week, or if we make 1,000 people or 1 million people, all of that impact is significant. And so I
Yeah.
think sometimes people forget that they can lead by example. And that's just as important for your personal brand as if you were in a titled leadership role.
Well, sometimes when people will say to me, "Oh, I'm told I should put more of myself into my personal brand. I should put more personal information." And I'm like, "Well, it's not so much about information. It's that thought that you just described, Jen, about, what do I want to contribute? What do I want to bring to the world? That
Hmm.
is the personal piece. It's not, she has 2 dogs and likes to do picnics. That's
Right.
not what people are looking for. It's nice color, but it's not what people are looking for. What people want to know is, what is it all about? And I hear that on a kind of a more of a pulling back in a big picture
Mm-hmm.
sense in today's world. I hear that a lot. What is it all about? Why are we doing this? What are we bothering to do this for? It's easy to get kind of brought down by tensions and strife and all kinds of other stuff. But in our own corner of the world, it's those fundamental questions that we need to spend more time asking. Um, I'm sure you work with and have integrated your work with a lot of the people who are downstream, who are in, the web building, web development, or web marketing, social
Hmm.
media management, all of those people that are in the execution
Yes.
phase
Yeah.
and that rely on us in many cases to formulate strategies with their clients, right? That they can
Yes.
then implement because strategy without implementation is pointless. But I think sometimes, and you tell me if what your experience has been, sometimes clients don't take the time to formulate the strategy fully. They think we're just kind of let's just get out there, and
Yeah.
once we're out there, we're gonna
We
we're
build
gonna
it,
we're
people
gonna
will come.
we're gonna do yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna
Yeah.
do it once we get out there, once we get going.
Well, and I think, I was on a call with a client this morning and our marketing team, because I have a digital marketing team I work with. And the first question out of my mouth was, let's step back and talk about strategy. We're doing a lot of tactical stuff. Why? Right? And it's not that it's bad, it's not. It's stepping back and going, big picture. What's the big impact we're trying to make? And a big portion of what I thought and felt was missing was living up to the brand promise of building community.
Hmm.
And so when I think of content, whether you're an individual or a company, which a company is just made up of people, but like I think of it in five buckets. I think, how are we driving awareness? How are we building new business or new opportunities? If you're an individual, it could be a speaking opportunity, it could be something else, a board opportunity. How do we let our audience know that we work with people on the value we deliver? So sort of a client um, piece. And the last two, one is talent. So if you want to have great partners or hire great people or interns or whatever, how do we let people know you want to work with us or for us? And lastly is thought leadership. And I
Yeah.
made those five buckets to manage myself, but it just so happens it helps with my clients too. And oftentimes, I think personal branding, we get comfortable doing whatever we're comfortable with. And it could be,
Mm-hmm.
I always post about going to a networking event. Hey, that's not bad. And tell me who you are. Why are you going to this networking event? What is it you believe in about this organization? Um, Lots of people are writing books because they believe that will help them, and it's true. It can be great evidence. I did a book this past year with Georgetown, and it's through Georgetown Press. There were 10 people who contributed. It's all about career advice, career development. And trust me, it's great to contribute a chapter. I've
Yeah.
written two books before that, and I was like, you only want a chapter? Perfect. But I'm not getting paid for that. Nobody else is. We're doing it because we want to create a book that helps people with their career journey. All the proceeds go to creating a student scholarship. And
Yeah.
the older we get, the more we know, hopefully. Hopefully we're getting smarter and not dumber. But think about, what do you
Well,
know?
at
Yeah,
least on this
right.
curve, I
For
think we're
now.
getting
Yeah. I'm
smarter.
hoping we're not at diminishing returns or anything. I hope we're not
Right.
at the tipping point. Um, but I think people forget that personal branding is, what do you know that you can add value to other people to help them? It's not about, hey, here's what I know. Aren't I amazing? It's, here's what I've learned that I can share. And if it helps you get through things faster, fantastic. And it might be new information. It might be a different perspective on an old problem. Like, how do we decide what career to pursue? But I think sometimes people shy away from personal branding because they think it's personal bragging. And I'm a big
Mm.
believer that personal branding is about sharing value and sharing perspective and being of service. And so I think that sort of values-based perspective helps a lot of my clients get more comfortable thinking about, oh, well, yeah, I could just share the last podcast I read and what I took from it. Or I could be on a panel and add some perspective for blah, blah, blah. And so I think we forget sometimes that it's not about us, even though it's called personal branding. It's about, in my mind, I'd love to get your thoughts. It's about what we can provide to our audience that's useful.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a big one. This, I call it egoless fame. I say, like some of my most of my clients are not people that are seeking limelight for its own, warmth. Like they're
Right.
not looking to
Yes.
bask in it. And I maintain for the most part that if they were, they would already be wherever they would already be in the spotlight. They wouldn't need me to,
Yeah.
nurture their brand or their image. But I think that what on the flip side of that is the idea that their audience is only helped when they get out there and deliver the wisdom, deliver the knowledge,
Yes.
deliver the service, whatever it is. And from my point of view, I realized I wasn't even doing that. I was, it's like hosting the podcast. I'm featuring, the guest, but I was doing very little in the way of public speaking, getting out doing keynotes. I was doing them here and there. I had written my book. Now the book's kind of about to get a little more of a kind of a formal push. But I think subconsciously I fall victim to that same thing. I'm
Oh,
like, well,
yes.
it's not about you. It's not about you. And we hear that a lot. It's not about us. It's not a it's not about you as a term is a good correction when we need to take a step back and recognize that we have to remember the people we want to help and what's best for them. But
Yeah.
what's best for them is for them to have access to you and your knowledge. And
Right.
whatever will make that gift, let's say, or offering available is our responsibility to put out there. Speaking of which, hold up the book again. I want to, just
Sure.
for those who are who those are mastering I can't mastering the
Mastering the
corporate
corporate chess
chess game.
game. Yeah.
Mastering the corporate chess game. Where can they find it?
They can find it on Amazon. They can find it on Georgetown University Press website. Um,
Very nice.
it's very cool. It was a really fun project. I think sometimes people forget building your personal brand or contributing value doesn't have to be a heavy lift,
Yeah.
right? We can find ways to be creative and make it easy to do. It's just a muscle that we have to build to think a little bit differently when we're brand building. Um, I think for, obviously the book, like that does take a lot of time and energy and passion. But even if it's hopping on a panel, right? Even if it's bringing together a lunch event with some of your peers, there are ways to start building your personal brand, small steps. And I think people hunger for more informal connection now too. So even
Yeah,
if it
yeah.
was just bringing together a group of people who you think should know each other, and you want to reconnect with them, go grab lunch, right? Go to a networking event together, whatever it is. But I think I saw a really crazy statistic at the end of the year. It was 40% of executives know they need, or no, 38% of executives know they need a personal brand and they're actively managing it. 40% of the people who are managing their personal brand are burnt out by it.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, I've
Interesting.
totally been there where I just don't want to talk about much, even though I'm not usually talking about myself. I just feel burnt out. So I do think it's important when building your personal brand, doing it in a way that's intentional with cadence and thoughtfulness and reminding yourself that it's not about you, it's about what can I share that would be of use, can also help mitigate burnout. And I tell
Yeah.
my clients, like, you don't have to be doing something every single day. Like, do it when it feels authentic. Share what you're thinking when you think it'll add value, and it's okay to take a break. It's okay to pause for a minute and just take a deep breath. It's more about quality than it is about quantity, although you do want to stay relatively top of mind.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very well said. And I think the idea is to keep it fun for ourselves, keep it
Yes.
um, you know, keep it in the moment. And you're right. If you have to pace yourself to, pay attention to the pacing is always good because what pacing shows is consistency. We
Yes.
learn in the podcasting world, consistency is king. It's not content that's king. It's consistency. What are we delivering? Value. How often are we
Hmm.
delivering it? Let's say a weekly. For how long have we been doing it? 5 years. It's like that's
Amazing.
what really works, and we should treat our brands the same way. So before
Yes.
we go, I want to let the audience know where they can find you, and then
Sure.
also maybe just a closing thought for what one closing thought on any of the topics that are tangential to personal branding. We've covered a lot, but just give us a closing thought, and
Sure.
yeah, that would be great. And thank you.
Well, first, thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting to
My
know you and
pleasure.
learn about you. Um, One of the tools that I think people are overusing or maybe getting comfortable using is AI. And I think it's really important when you think about your personal brand or your career to understand how are you learning about AI, integrating AI, and leveraging it in a way that doesn't sacrifice your authenticity. And so It's okay if you're using AI for research, things like that. Just make sure you keep your voice and your thoughts um, as the bigger piece of the pie when you're creating content. So learn it and use it for efficiency, but keep in mind it's also about authenticity um, and empathy. And I think people need the human touch, and we can tell when something's not real or written by AI. I can,
Yeah.
at least for now, I can still tell. Um, and I think it's okay to take your phone and do a 30-second video and say, hey, here's what's going on today. Here's what I learned. Here's what I'm thinking about. Try not to make it so hard to make that first step. I'm in the process of
Yeah.
doing like an accountability partner thing where I challenge someone to do a video and then they do a video just to get it going. Once you start, it gets much easier. People can find me on LinkedIn. I would love an invitation to connect, or if you have questions, reach out. You can find me there, Jen Dalton. And then my website is BrandMirror, MIRROR.com. I do complimentary consults because I love what I do and I'm happy to always be a sounding board for people. There's lots of free resources and podcasts on my website to listen to too if you really want to learn more about personal branding. But I'm here to help. So thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Hersh.
Alright.
If you liked the show,
Yes, and?
it worked for you,
Yes, then?
subscribe and leave a
Yes, friend.
5-star review.
Yes, friend.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Get your branding here.
Yes, friend.
Did I make it clear?
Yes, friend.
Get your branding on
Yes.
before they're gone.
Yes.